my relationships with people are not transactional.
Ah.
I know a lot of big actors, but I won't go to them and say, please can you hook me up with a film? Because it ruins a friendship.
Anshu, hi. Welcome to Galatta Telugu.
Thank you for having me.
20 years ago, 2004, when you finished shooting for Jay, the Tamil film,
Yes.
when you wrapped your portions up and as you left the set,
Yes.
were you aware that you would be away from the camera for close to 2 decades?
No. No, I wasn't. I had actually signed a Telugu film. And I think there was a bit of time before we started shooting, maybe a month or two. So it just made sense to maybe go back to England, catch up with friends, family. And I guess once I was there, I made a decision to stay and pursue my studies. So my dad used to accommodate me everywhere. So I just said, Dad, I don't think I really want to go back right now.
What prompted that decision?
I guess there were multiple factors. I was very young, so I was probably around 17, 18 when I got back. So still quite young. You know, catching up with my friends made me realize I really missed them. They were living the whole college life, which obviously I wasn't part of. I loved working in India, being on set, having fun, working hard. But I think life was very lonely. I was quite isolated.
In India?
Yeah, because, you know, I couldn't just sort of make friends and hang out. I guess my dad was quite protective. He was guarding me, rightly so. But, you know, it felt quite isolating. So, yeah.
Okay. So you were happy when you left back to, because you were uprooted from the UK when you had to come down.
I wouldn't say I was happy, but I wasn't sad either. It was almost like a mixture of both. I was happy because I knew I'd get my freedom back. The freedom element was huge for me. I was happy that I was pursuing my studies again because I was only sort of up to high school standard. So I still had a lot of studies to do, which was always the plan, I suppose. When I accepted Manmadhudu, the plan was to film and then go back. An opportunity came my way. It wasn't like a long-term thing.
Right.
But because it did so well, I ended up staying and I did Raghavendra, and then I was like going to go back, and then I was like, actually, it's all happening. So, but yeah, I was not happy, not sad, I guess, just neutral.
What was your process like back then? You just mentioned that you used to prepare a lot, right? Talking about Manmadhudu, and we were just having this conversation, right? Prompt and the lack of prompting back in the day. So what was your process like? Can you elaborate on that? Because the language is kind of alien to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I guess when I was offered Manmadhudu, I was super duper nervous. And that is down to the fact that I was out of my comfort zone. At least the people I worked with were from England. We were all kind of rooting for each other. We knew each other, and then over time you get to know each other. With Manmadhudu, it was really hard in the sense that a completely different country for a start. Country, not so much actually. It's the city and the language. Because although I have an aunt that lives here, I wouldn't often come to this part of the country. So that was a huge thing. And I guess I really immersed myself into the good hands of my director, who was Vijay Bhaskar Garu. He was fantastic. And I know you've probably heard this a gazillion times, but literally I am a director's actor. And I think everyone is. When someone says, I'm a director's actor, you really are. They are the captain of the ship. You know, you are under their control. And he was wonderful where he was so soft and gentle, and he knew she's just a young girl. You know, he was very sensitive around me, explained things beautifully. You know, he would act out how he wanted this character to be portrayed of Maheshwari. So it was very easy in that sense. So it was very much me doing what the director asked me.
So how would you because the language, the accent, and you had to speak Telugu, you had to emote and all, right? It sounds like a lot. Especially because the language is alien to you.
Yeah.
So how would you prep?
It was hard. I was given the dialogues in advance. So in English, so Telugu in English. And, you know, the AD would sit with me and go over the lines. And you have a lot of time in between your shots when you're waiting for your shot, you're in the set, you have time to actually practice those lines. I guess I didn't have a prompter. I know that's quite common now where you have somebody prompting the dialogues on set, but I didn't have that with any of my films. So it was challenging. But I guess I just had to get on with it. But also, at that age, I just finished high school. I guess for me, it was just learning something. My brain could absorb it. So, yeah.
And I'm assuming that you had to turn down a lot of offers, right?
That's a good question. There were a few.
Wasn't it tempting, Anshu?
Is this at the time?
Sorry?
At the time?
At that time, yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was tempting. But I did sign a film, like I said. And then, like I mentioned, there was that time lag. And then I went back. And then I decided to stay back.
Okay. What did you miss the most about acting? And when did you realize that you missed acting?
What I missed the most was acting. Actually being on a set. I missed that the most because I really enjoyed that. So that's been with me throughout these 20 years. But life got busy. I was studying. I spent years studying and then qualifying as a therapist. And then I got married. So that was a different era of my life.
Yeah.
You immerse yourself into that. Then the children came. And I guess, there was always that itch, something was grating on me all those years. And I think only the last year or so, I've come to realize that I want to be back.
Last year?
Yeah, year and a half, maybe 2 years even. Yeah.
Interesting. And I would, before coming to the acting aspect, I would really love to know about, your profession in the UK, that is cognitive, you're a cognitive behavioral therapist.
That's right, yeah.
Therapist, right? Now, the most fascinating thing about it when we hear that someone is a therapist is you are helping people. You are helping people heal themselves. You are not healing them, right? You are helping people, you are empowering people so that they can, put themselves together. And I was reading this book called Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. It's by a writer called Laurie Gatlib, if I'm pronouncing it right. She's a therapist. It's a non-fiction book. It's about a therapist going to a therapist. At one point in her life, like she is compelled to go to therapy.
And that happens. That's
so how did you deal with for 20 years? Like it's an emotionally taxing profession, right? So how do you manage that?
The same could be said about an actor, a doctor. When a doctor's seeing so many patients with multiple illnesses, difficulties, diseases, it can be taxing. You're seeing people die every day in palliative care. So I guess you really have to love the work you do to be able to do it. You have to be very passionate. Sometimes, even if a job's not paying you well or as much as you'd like, if you're passionate about it, same for teachers. You have to be very passionate about teaching to be a teacher because that's quite taxing. It's not just about teaching them academics. You're managing behaviors. Getting the class to sit down and, issues that children may be having at home.
You're literally dictating.
It's a package.
Yeah.
It's a holistic thing. So I love what I do. And I guess for me, I always say this to all my clients and patients that, as much as we wish we could have this magic dust that we can sprinkle over you for all your difficulties to go away, it doesn't quite work like that. No therapist has the power to take away your difficulties. We can support you, we can guide you, give you those coping mechanisms, tools, techniques, and practical strategies to help you move forward. So if you've gone through a trauma or you're severely depressed or you're a very anxious person, somebody with social anxiety, OCD, PTSD, like I mentioned, post-traumatic stress disorder, they don't just miraculously leave. But we support them, we guide them through that process. We try to make them understand what is actually triggering those thoughts, those feelings, by doing cognitive restructuring with them, some formulation work, really getting them to understand, and then actually making specific goals for them to work towards, which are actually achievable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And there is this, like I was telling you, there is this social stigma associated with therapy in India, right? If someone knows that they are going to therapy, they'll just ask, what's wrong with you? Is something wrong with you? Like, we need to normalize that. What's your take on it?
Absolutely. I mean, before this interview we were speaking and you mentioned there's a place called some institute with the words mental health. The word mental itself, people are going to think you're mental. When somebody's a bit low or somebody's a worrier, an anxious person, they're not mental. There's different tiers of, presentation. Somebody could be very psychotic. When we use terms like mental, it's very much going into the secondary tier, where somebody needs severe medication, where they have maybe bipolar or BPD, borderline personality disorder. So it's how you're categorizing these things. If somebody's going through, severe to moderate anxiety or depression, you can't classify them as mental or crazy. It's how you use your words. It's very important. Like I can say they're mental problems, but actually I've already said a couple of times in this interview that they're difficulties. We all have difficulties. We have family problems. Some of us can't afford to pay our bills, They're just difficulties which then result in us feeling in certain ways. And, then the frustration happens. I always say depression and anxiety is a byproduct of an underlying difficulty. What is that void in your life? What's missing? Something's making you sad. What is it you want? Because you don't have that, and that's causing you to feel these things and emotions. Okay. Anger is not a problem. It's a byproduct of an underlying issue. Maybe you were bullied at school. Maybe you just lost your father a year ago, and you're just snapping and getting angry at people. But, it's very much looking at the costs versus the benefits of anger.
See, but again, I'm very curious to know this. We all experience these intense emotions, right? Anger, disappointment, all these things. I know it's a very vague and broad question, but I think you would be the perfect person to answer this. How do I keep them in check? How do I control them without losing my mind?
So with anger, this is turning into a therapy session.
Yeah, okay. Let's not make it that.
I'll keep it simple.
Yeah.
You have to look at the costs versus the benefits of anger, right? So we're sitting in a cafe and I get a sandwich and I see a big long strand of hair in my sandwich. I'm probably fuming, like, what on earth is this?
It's a natural instinct.
And you're maybe in a really high-end cafe, and I'm angry. Now, there's two things I can do. I can call the waiter. I can totally switch at them and say, what the hell is this? I've come here, this is so unhygienic, and it's just put my mood right off. And I can shout and yell at them. And actually, they've gone away, they've apologized, they've done all those things. How am I feeling? Am I feeling any better? No.
Yeah.
Is he or she feeling any better? No, which is making me feel even worse. So it's almost like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. You're killing yourself in the process.
Self-harm.
Absolutely. So what I can say is, sorry, excuse me, there's a hair in my sandwich. Could you kindly change it? Or, I wasn't really expecting this and I'm really not happy about this. There's ways of saying it's a tone you use and you can still feel angry, but actually you feel good because you've actually spoken to them nicely and they feel good because they haven't been shouted at. Then I don't feel so bad. And it's respectful, right? Yeah. You're disrespecting somebody by yelling at them. You have no right to do that. But having said that, I find it's quite common in India. Like there's a lot of yelling and stuff. I see it all the time. Yeah. And I guess it's not in England. You can't just yell at someone at your cleaning staff and your cooks and they have rights, everyone's a human. And we together as humans can help one another by spreading kindness. And, no matter how you're feeling, you have to look at the costs versus the benefits. What's the benefit? What's the cost?
Anshu, how do you go about your bad days? I'm sure you will be having bad days too, right?
I do. Yeah. But sometimes I feel I can't control other people. I can only control myself and my emotions. And if somebody has said something to me that's hurtful and I react to that, they've won. My peace is gone. I can't sleep. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to see my friends. Why? So you have to just remind yourself that actually the way they have been is a reflection of them and their difficulties that they're putting onto you. So I always say to my children as well, if somebody's being horrible to you, remember, somebody's being a bully at school or somebody's being horrible, they're probably not feeling good about themselves. Which is, it's very sad actually. There must be problems at home or something happening, we don't know, right? But they're probably not feeling good about themselves, but maybe they want you to feel bad as well. They want to share that load onto you and you're taking that load. Park it up, put it to one side, park it up, you know what to do. And I used to go to schools and colleges as well in the early stages of my career, and I used to do all these workshops with students doing their high school education, their college, before going on to university. So we used to do a lot of workshops on stress management, anxiety, depression, how to be stress management. So yeah. But as you can see, I'm very passionate about all these things.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
these are all controllable.
So two questions. Acting is something like when you are in the spotlight, everyone's going to have an opinion on you.
Yeah.
Everyone is going to, like, when you are acting, when you're not just acting, like you're popular, you have followers on Instagram, when you put a picture out or when you put a reel out, it's almost like you're letting people judge you.
Yeah.
Like how do you deal with that? Because if you're gonna come back to acting, everything under the sun is being like trolled, is being criticized. I'm not saying not all of them, there might be very little valid criticism in that, but a lot of it is just shit posting and stuff, right? Are you prepared for that?
Yeah, like I just said, it's a reflection of them.
So
right? It's them, it's not me. They might want to post a nice picture or a reel and they're not able to. And they're seeing all these other actors, models, influencers, digital creators, doctors. Even nowadays, doctors have become influencers, dentists have become influencers, lawyers are creating their own accounts, nutrition. It's not just actors. Everyone's now putting everything onto social media. I follow so many gym owners, nutritionists, and they're almost like celebrities in my eyes. But they probably just have like a business somewhere, but you know, they're putting out these cool, funky reels. And you know, even they get so trolled so much. I see it, but whatever. They're educating us, right? And I guess that doesn't really affect me at all.
Great. How do you plan to balance therapy and acting?
That's a really good question.
Because you
love them both.
Yeah.
To be honest, the good thing about the therapy is, you know, I work privately, so I can pick and choose my clients.
Okay.
So, you know, I'm here right now, so I'm not seeing any of my clients. And, you know, if I'm acting, then obviously that'll have to pause. And, you know, if I have days in between, I'll pick up some work through that. So I guess I've got the best of both worlds, depending on how busy it becomes. But yeah, but acting is something I really enjoy. I'm so passionate about, and it is a tricky one. But I know I'm a qualified therapist, and even if I don't do it for a few months or a year or so, it's something I'll always have to fall back on. Hence why the education was so important.
And your credibility won't be questioned because you are proven in that field.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me something. Is acting a skill? Like, is it something that one can not do for a long time and they can go back and start right exactly where they started? Or how do you see it? Like,
you know what? You have two things. You have talent and then there's hard work. And, you know, there's somebody, for example, may not be a great dancer, but if they work hard at their dancing, they can pull it off. Right? They might not have the talent naturally, like they may not be a natural, I don't know, Hrithik Roshan, you know, he's a great dancer, right? But then you have actors that are not like him, but they really work hard. So you can pull that off. And it's weird because this is a conversation I often have with my daughter. She's always talking about one of her friends who's super bright, naturally bright, always getting, she probably doesn't even revise. Literally, she's just naturally bright.
Okay.
And I had peers like that at school who were just naturally bright, where I had to revise for months and months, do all-nighters. I got the same grades as the bright kids because I put in that work. So I guess, yes, talent is very important, but you can grow on that talent by doing workshops, attending, you know, acting workshops, improving your dance, working on your fitness, you know, ensuring that you're taking care of yourself. You know, my daughter actually says to me, "Mummy, why do you always lock your bedroom door?" Right? You know what I'm doing in there? I'm literally in front of the mirror and I don't want the kids to come in.
Wow.
And I've seen some scene and I'm just improvising it in front of the mirror.
Okay.
So that I don't have to do that. I want to do that because I want to try it. I want to see how I do it. So yeah, I do stuff like that. If I see like a step that's become all Insta famous, I'll start, you know, doing it in front of the mirror. And I'm sure everyone does.
So you have been practicing acting all the while?
I think I act
That's
every
great.
day.
Every day?
In some shape or form. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, do you have like now that, see, 20 years ago, the industry was in
Very
a different
different.
phase.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm so sorry if I'm reminding you of 20 years.
That's
20
fine.
years.
There's a lot that I don't remember as well.
Okay.
I'm a bit ancient now.
No. You aren't, Anshu. You aren't. You're still pretty relevant. So, 20 years later, like the industry has changed. Have you been following the trends? Have you been keeping up with
Yes.
the industry, the kind
Not
of films
fully,
being
not
made?
initially, no. I guess I just immersed my life into my studies and everything. But I'd say the last few years, on and off, yes. Definitely. I have been. Lots changed. A lot has changed. The quality of cinema has changed. Everything looks amazing. Wow. You know, definitely. I can see it. I guess for me, what's changed in terms of me as a person, I was very underconfident at that time. I was a young 16-year-old who just finished high school. I could not just rock up at some director's office for a chat about a role. I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it on my own. I'd need my dad with me or someone with me. But now I would be happy to just DM a director on Instagram and say, hello, sir, love your work. If there's any role that you think would be suitable for me, I would love to connect. That takes guts.
Yeah.
But I would happily do that. I could rock up to somebody's office for a meeting fully confident. I could not do that 20 years ago. No way. You grow, you learn. I guess therapy's helped me. The education. Back then I was lacking. So I really would love to see an interview of mine that I did back then. And I know there are a few floating somewhere. I just need access to them. But I remember watching them at the time and thinking, oh my God, I don't even know what I'm talking about. And that was down to a lack of education
It's a
and
different
experience.
person altogether. Yeah.
I'm probably the same person, but just I've grown, right? I'm 20 years older for a start. I'm a wife, mother, you know, my roles have changed. I'm a therapist as well. So I guess in that sense, yeah, you do grow. You do grow. I think I'm still the soft, calm person. I'm very level-headed. I don't react to things, but, you know, I observe and I absorb. I'm very good at that.
Right. So in the industry, there is this thing, right? If an actor succeeds playing a particular role, they're offered similar kind
genre,
of role.
yeah.
It's stereotyping, and the roles that you have played, they fell into the same bracket in a way in the 4 films that you did. Now, are you ready to like break that image and try something new?
Absolutely. I mean, I'd be happy playing a villain. Anything that's just that excites me. It has to be exciting. It has to be something that I know I can do under the right guidance and direction. So like I was explaining the whole therapy stuff, we guide the client. Same way with the director, your ADs, your writers, they guide you through that process. You really want to immerse into a character. When I did the films previously, I wouldn't sit there and ask, so tell me more. Tell me more about the character. Can I speak to somebody who's similar to, now I think I'd really immerse myself. But yeah.
Okay. Quite interesting. No, we just can't go on with the interview without addressing the elephant in the room. That was the Manmadhudu re-release that just happened a couple of months back, right?
August last year.
Yeah, August last year.
Yeah.
How did you process that? And how did it, I'm assuming that it has had a tremendous impact on...
100%. Of course. I guess about 8-9 months before the re-release, I was getting this desire, like burning desire to try and come back to movies in South, in Telugu cinema. And, I think I was really working on my fitness back then. I got to a good stage in terms of, I put on quite a bit of weight post having my kids. So I was, feeling fit, feeling confident, looking better in my clothes. And then obviously I was contacted by Annapurna Studios. And the guys were like, we're re-releasing Manmadhudu for Nagarjuna Garu's birthday. And would you mind just saying something so we can do a collaboration on Instagram? I was like, absolutely. And then did that. And I just said to my husband, Sachin, I said, they are re-releasing Manmadhudu. And he was like, wow, that's so cool. I mean, he doesn't understand the whole world of cinema and stuff. He's like, wow, that's pretty cool. And I was like, I've been talking to you about me wanting to possibly, explore my options, right? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, I feel like something's aligning with the stars. I'm huge on visualization and manifestation.
Okay.
And I've spoken about this in previous interviews as well. And he just looked at me, and he knows me so well. And he goes, so what do you want to do? and he goes, you're going to do something crazy, right? And I was like, I wouldn't use the word crazy, but he knows I'm quite impulsive. So I was like, I'm going to India, baby. And literally he was like, okay. And he just looked at me, he goes, well, there's nothing I can say or do that will change that, because I don't want to change that. I want to support you. This is your dream, and I'm going to 100% support you. So you do what you have to do, and we will figure everything else out.
That's great, because it's a big decision, and it's not just your decision, because there are other people also
involved.
at stake in the equation.
I guess, you know what, it's almost like when, you know, people used to ask me after I got married, you know, when are you going to have children? Have you thought about kids? Which I think is a very personal question. But then, you know, people say, oh, it's not the right time. And I guess I'm not talking for others, but for myself, I always say, when will be the right time? You will figure it out. We might not have a big enough house to have a child. You know, we might not have enough car space for a car seat for a child. But you figure it out. That's all I say. Once it happens, you can figure it out. And the same with this whole experience. My husband was fully supportive, and he said, we'll figure it out. You do what you have to do. I know that is your dream. That's your, you know, you've had a burning desire for ages. You're looking your best. So yeah, I'm very grateful to have the most amazing life partner, honestly.
Lovely. You know, my very close friend keeps telling this. There are no right decisions. You take a decision and you make it right.
Yeah.
You believe in
I
that?
like that. I don't know if I believe in it, but I like it, because I think, you know, in life you can take a lot of risks, but if they fail and fail and fail constantly, how much more can you keep taking those risks? You have to be sensible as well. But then on the flip side, you know, again, I tell this to my children, you know, failing is good, because by failing you grow. And I don't even like using the word failing, to be honest. It's growing. You're not failing, you're learning. So I guess, yeah, I mean, I said to myself, right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make frequent trips now, specifically to Hyderabad. I want to meet with directors, story writers, you know, producers, and, you know, see what we can do. Let them know I'm around, I'm available, I'm open for auditions. You know, I have no qualms just saying that, you know.
No, it's beautiful that you're telling it that I want to act. Yeah.
I want to act, and I want to work in a good film. You know, no one's just going to come to me. And any actor that thinks they're going to be approached, I mean, I'm sure there are quite a lot that will. But I'm just saying, like, you could have that big, successful film, but then it could be completely dry for the next 1 year. And it's not because you haven't had a successful film. It just could be there's no role out there for you.
Yeah.
So you have to show face. You have to show you're available. You have to show you're keen. You have to show you're willing to work on certain areas. I mean, I know Telugu is not my strength, but I'm willing to work on that.
I want to know why Telugu, Anshu?
Because that's where I was originally from, I guess. That's where it all started, right? You know, people say, don't you want to try Bombay and stuff?
Yeah.
Like, no, I don't.
Because
actually.
I'm assuming you're very well connected. Again, not to flatter you or something.
No.
I know it for a fact.
I know people.
Yeah.
But that's another thing. My relationships with people are not transactional. I know a lot of big actors who I'm still friends
Exactly.
with.
I know this. Yeah.
But I won't go to them and say, please, can you hook me up with a film? Because it ruins a friendship. They themselves probably are trying to figure out their own careers, and then somebody comes and does. That's not the way. You know, have your relationships. They are obviously aware of you being there, and, you know, if it comes into conversation, it happens. The right way to do it is to actually, you know, reach out to the directors, reach out to the writers, let them know that you are around for work, you are available for auditions. You know, get yourself a manager, get yourself someone who can pitch you, can put you forward for auditions. I mean, despite me having worked in those few films, you know, people would think, oh, she wouldn't have to audition. People have seen her work. I don't know if I look completely different. I don't know. I mean, maybe I look a little bit the same, a little
Slightly
bit
different.
Slightly different, but obviously, you know, you have to still audition. You're an actor. That's what you do, right? So I have no issues with that.
So what's happening now? Are you auditioning? What's happening? I mean, like, if you are okay sharing that.
I mean,
is something happening?
Possibly.
Okay.
So there's discussions. I'm listening to scripts. interesting because before people had met me, there was a certain role in mind. But after meeting me and actually seeing me in person, it's like I'm under that very awkward category actually, because I'm not quite the young 20s heroine anymore.
But the problem is, you look young.
And I'm not quite a mother.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm not quite a mother. So I'm kind of in between. Like I can't really compare to the actresses here.
Yeah.
Maybe I can. Let's take some Hindi actresses, for example. I'm not quite an Ananya Pandey or a Janvi Kapoor, but then I'm not quite a Madhuri, Kajol or Kareena. I'm sort
Somewhere
of in
between. Yeah.
But then I have that tag of being married with children. Unfortunately, that tag plays a part, which is quite sad. However, maybe I can break that stigma one day. Never say never. Actresses are now breaking that stigma. You have Alia, who's a mother now. You have Kareena, who's a young mum. So now Deepika's pregnant. You know, so people are now having babies. It'll be interesting to see whether they come back as heroines, you know, which I'm sure they will. So you can see the change in the trajectory. You can see that people are now changing. There's been a big change. You know, you should be valued for your work and not your personal life and the tags attached to that. I mean, look at, you know, for example, I'm just a random example, somebody I absolutely admire, Manisha Koryala, recently saw Hiramandi on Netflix. I was blown away. That woman is so inspiring. She has battled cancer and she has come back with a bang. You know, people may not have wanted to cast her because of her illness. Sonali ma'am, exactly the same. And she was obviously a co-actor in one of my films. I love women like that, that still keep going, still keep pushing, still keep breaking boundaries. And that's what we should be doing and empowering other women to do. So, yeah.
Wonderful. That's a beautiful, let's end this interview on that beautiful, optimistic note. Thank you very much,
Thank
Anshu.
you so much.
I know you're manifesting, and I'm pretty sure that manifestation will work because you believe in it.
I hope so. Thank you so
All
much.
the very best.